So, very good. Well, welcome to everybody. Very great to have you guys. We have some good stuff to talk about today. We're just chatting about how everyone's freezing to death or sweating to death. It's kind of a mixture of the two between all the hemispheres and time zones. But all in all, so it actually looked like it snowed in Huntington Beach today on PCH across the street from the ocean because it hailed so much. It was just one hail of a day. All right, there's my joke for the moment. But glad you guys are all hanging in there. Glad we all have electricity and power and all that stuff. Yeah, Scott, I love it. Let's warm it up with some hot trades. And we have some hot trades coming. Good grief, we have got some hot trades coming for sure. I hope everybody's ready. For anybody that's joining us for the first time or two or whatever, this is where I talk about this week and what I'm looking for and the most important things that I think will be most important trades to watch and setups to watch, and we'll talk about some actionable details that we'll do. Now, this is kind of a rough outlook. What I do on a daily basis after I kind of look at all these charts and everything is in our trade group, which you can see the link I just posted, daytradersfx.com/join. From there, you can get a free trial to our trade group and see how we kind of refine down on these ideas. So we're going to talk about general things that I want to see happening, and that if they do happen, I'll take a trade, kind of a thing. And then we'll go into a more detailed look at it from day to day. We meet a couple times a day in our live trade group, and we look at all the kind of changes that are happening from day to day and what all the central banks are doing and so on, and it's pretty exciting. So I hope you guys can join us, get a free trial to the trade group. The link's right there, all the details are there. I'm happy to help. Shoot me an email, send me a message on Twitter, whatever, anything. I'm here and happy to chat with you guys about anything I can. Okay, so as you guys know, let's just sum up what I like to do. That is, I love to look for technical setups that are driven by fundamental analysis. And the fundamentals that I look at the most are interest rates and what central banks are doing. This week is like a jackpot of central bank stuff. And in fact, it's probably an overload of central bank stuff. Yes, Benny, I will be recording this tonight. Absolutely. So this week we've got quite a few things in the works. Number one, starting in just a couple of hours, here it is about 4 p.m. Pacific time, we have got, in about 3 hours, a little less than 3.5 hours, we have Australian interest rate announcement. They're expected to cut the rate again. Last time they cut the rate from 2.5 to 2.25, and they're expected to cut it again. This could be full of surprises. If they cut the rate tonight, things could get really, well, if they cut it more than expected, if we end up like at a 0.5 point instead of a 1/4 point, which is absolutely not unheard of, then we're going to see some crazy movement on the Australian dollar for sure. If they don't end up cutting rates, if they actually leave it at 2.25%, which is a huge possibility as well, then we could see some interesting things happening there. We're going to have a rate statement right after this. This is going to be a huge, not to miss event. You're going to want to pay attention to this. And we in the trade group will be live for this because we've been watching Australian dollar pairs quite extensively for quite some time, and so we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on this. So that's in a couple of hours. Then we follow it up tomorrow with we have a bunch of interest rate stuff tomorrow. Good old Carney will speak from the Bank of England. That's always full of surprises and action. We have Yellen speaking, but probably not a huge market mover tomorrow. Going into Wednesday, we have Bank of Canada will have their interest rate announcement and their rate statement, so that's going to be a big deal. We're watching Canadian pairs like crazy, and so that's going to definitely influence what we're looking at there. Then we have some more big Aussie news, retail sales and trade balance on Wednesday. Thursday, we have UK interest rate stuff. Now, very unlikely that we'd see a rate cut there, but it's definitely possible that there could be a rate increase. So you never know. You never know. The rate statement will be something interesting to watch. Following that little event, we're going to have the interest rate and the ECB press conference news for the euro, and that's a huge deal. We pretty much almost we almost never have an ECB press conference that isn't accompanied by a lot of craziness. So that's coming up. Be ready for that. And then Friday we have non-farm payroll, blah, blah, blah. We'll be live for that as well. So we're probably going to be live for at least non-farm payroll and for the Aussie news tonight. And then we'll trade the reactions, of UK and Europe this week as well. It's going to be total madness. So I'm excited. It's going to be so much. It's going to be just intense. Let's just be ready for all of that's coming. So in light of that, what I decided that I'm pretty sure that I want to do is I want to really stick with trading and talking about pairs that have interest rate announcements. Now, almost all the pairs have that, except I don't think we have anything we don't have much from the US this week as far as interest rate stuff goes. We don't have much from Japan or New Zealand. So about half of them have some big activity coming in. So we want to be ready for that. So the euro, for example, here's something I've been talking about on the euro quite a bit. We've been talking about the fact, I even have it written on my chart still, be short below 11300, 112.75, right in that general area. So we made a break. It had a nice rundown of 125 pips, and now it's just sitting here. Now, what are we going to do with the euro this week? Well, I'll tell you what I would like to do. I would like to find a nice opportunity to sell any rallies on this pair. That is before the interest rate news. Now, chances are we probably won't have much of a trade on the euro. We don't have a current euro-dollar trade running right now, and we probably won't have much until the news comes out. But any rallies I'm going to be looking to sell. Now, depending on what the ECB says, it's going to kind of change our views a little bit on how things are going to go. Here's one thing that I am simply not smart enough to do, and it's this: I'm not smart enough to guess what the central banks are going to say. And maybe it's because I'm smart that I don't try to guess, or maybe it's just because I'm really not smart enough to guess. I don't really know which one it is, but it's one of the two for sure. So I don't try to guess. You guys have heard me say a million times that I would rather not, under any circumstances possible, ride through, have a trade running through a central bank announcement, because you just never know what they're going to do. They could raise rates unexpectedly, cut rates. They could, anything could happen at any time. It's just totally ridiculous. And so there's no point in trying to take the gamble and say, I have a good feeling that rates are going to continue to go down, or they're going to continue to go up, or whatever. So let's put a trade on before the news so that we can maximize our profits through that. That is, you have a much better chance of going to Vegas and putting it all on black or red or both. So we're not going to do that, but we are going to let the news hit and be ready for some good activity there. Now, Europe, the ECB is thanks, Kevin. My mom says I'm smart too, so that makes at least two of us here. But so the ECB is going to talk, and they're going to probably, who knows what they're going to say. But the one thing that I do have to look at on the technical side of things is the fairly decent overextended factor on both daily and 4-hour charts with this euro dollar. My indicator is screaming that we're getting to a pretty heavily oversold area. We're not there yet, and it could definitely continue to run further down without making any kind of pullback. But chances are this is going to be a nice opportunity to the ECB press conference to hopefully give us an opportunity to continue shorting the euro. It's pretty well accepted that Europe, there's no way they can raise rates, and I don't know how much more they could lower. I mean, I guess they can keep lowering rates as much as they want. They're already started in their QE, their quantitative easing. So what we'd be looking for on euro dollar and a lot of euro pairs, but specifically the euro dollar, because we have strong rate outlooks in the US and negative rate outlooks in Europe. So that means we need to be short euro dollar for at least a little bit longer. So with the ECB news coming this week, sorry for my squeaky chair at my stand-up desk, but it's pretty squeaky. With the ECB news this week, we're going to want to look for opportunities to sell rallies. So if that news comes out and it spikes up, unless they say, just kidding, we stopped our QE, we're done with it, it's not happening anymore, which they're not going to say because they just started it. And there's no way they can raise rates. I mean, I guess anything's possible, but it's 99.99% unlikely that they'll raise rates in the middle of their QE program or at the beginning of their QE program. So chances are any spikes we get on the euro dollar in particular during the ECB news this week, we're going to want to sell. We're going to want to sell the heck out of any spikes we get on this and just short this thing right back on down. The higher price we get, the better off we get. The euro's probably headed into parity over the next several months. That's probably what's going to happen. So let's just be ready for that, and let's go from there. Yeah, that's right, Adrian. You got to bring in the cheddar. I will be very honest. Technically speaking, we have a decent setup. Does anybody have any questions about the euro, by the way? Euro, any questions about that? If you do, just send them over. Fundamentally speaking, I'm a little bit cloudy on what I want to do with the pound dollar, and I have been for a little while. And I haven't really missed out on too much. I mean, there's been some spikes down and some spikes up, and we've talked about a couple of these things, like being long above 154.80, which it spiked up a little bit into 155.50. It gave us 70 pips or so of movement, and then it's kind of stalled out. I think depending, and this is where we have to kind of wait and see what happens during the rate statement and press conference and so on for the UK. And I don't even think they're going to have a press conference this week. They have one like every 19 weeks, and they just have the rate statement, or excuse me, the actual interest rate, and then that's it. But we're gonna let's follow the news on this pound dollar. I like the fact that it's made this nice little rundown, technically speaking. It ran up to and crossed and closed above the 23% fib. That's our big deal right there. So it closed above the 23% fib, and now it's pulling back down a bunch. So there's the 23% fib. It's currently 125 pips below that. For me, that means I want to be looking for opportunities to buy the pound dollar because it's crossed our 23% fib level and then it's pulled back. So it's going to be probably giving us opportunities to buy dips on pound dollar this week. We have a couple of missed pivots down here, a current monthly pivot that hasn't been hit, a missed weekly pivot, a missed daily pivot, and so on. And so these could be nice little areas to buy dips on pound dollar. I don't know, depending on what the central bank, the Bank of England says, we could be selling pound dollar even further, or we could continue with our outlook of buying dips. I like to buy dips. I want to buy dips, but if they say something different, maybe very hawkish, or excuse me, dovish, then we could end up with some big selling opportunities. We have little things in the works, like a head and shoulders pattern, and some of that stuff, really short-term things. We could have a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern here with about a 200 pip profit potential, which would put us right down into kind of this missed daily, weekly pivot zone down into 150-100, which could then turn out to be a very nice opportunity to buy against these lows for a target of 158 into that 38% fib. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see what happens with this pound dollar. It's going to be an interesting little detail. And Kevin, your bracket setup reminds me of something that I'm going to talk about. Semi-exciting, semi-very exciting, totally, completely exciting in just a couple of minutes. So everybody, don't take off right at the end of this because I'm going to talk about a few little details for a moment. So that's kind of what we're looking for. At the moment, we're going to focus on buying dips on pound dollar, but after we get a little bit of a clearer picture of the central bank news, we may be selling breakouts or really buying dips. We'll just kind of see how it goes and what they say. But for the moment, we have a little short-term head and shoulders pattern on pound dollar that could get a little more active below about 153, 153.25-ish area and so on. So that's kind of what we're looking for on pound dollar. Okay, so Aussie dollar is going to be a big one to watch this week, and specifically tonight. It's going to just be a big, crazy deal that we're going to definitely want to keep an eye on and see how it goes. So what we're looking at here is Aussie dollar is kind of forming a bit of a head and shoulders pattern as well. I think it's probably pretty safe that we should be shorting the Aussie versus the US dollar currently. Currently, we should be short Aussie dollar versus US dollar. I think that's just our safe bet for the moment. We probably will be able to continue that type of an outlook after the interest rate news tonight. You can see that we've kind of got this little level here. It's about 77.40 that the market's having a heck of a time, really making a move past. And this little area right here could kind of constitute the early stages of another head and shoulders pattern. So head and shoulder, 175 pips, nothing major. These little 4-hour patterns are nothing too significant, but that could really get us going into some nice movement down. Now, I'm just saying that, Australia has been very, very verbal and vocal about they want the exchange rate even lower, and and with mining details getting a little bit against the ropes, that could hurt the Australian economy a bit. There's a few things that we just kind of have to keep an eye on. So Aussie dollar is probably going to continue, Australian dollar versus US dollar is probably going to continue to be a good selling opportunity, specifically below this 77.40 area down into these lows. Now, if the news were surprisingly, the interest rate news today were surprisingly hawkish, then we could see all kinds of crazy things happen. The Australian dollar versus US dollar pair is not very overextended as far as indicator side of things go. On the daily chart, it's made a pretty good little run, and it's getting into some pretty decent areas, so the daily chart could definitely pull back. But once the Aussie dollar starts trending, it just seems to go and go and go and go and go. The 4-hour chart was getting a little bit stretched, but it pulled back up here last week, hit the 200 moving average, and kind of has continued on. So that kind of gives this thing a little bit of permission to just keep going in the direction of Aussie dollar weakness and US dollar strength. And so we're going to look at that. We're going to look to continue shorting this pair, and we're going to potentially take this thing down into some of these big, big lows and into some of these big levels down here. We could get into the very low 70s probably fairly easily and beyond. So we're still we're definitely on the bottom half of the middle of the big range that we're seeing here. We're about 3,300 pips from the high of the last several months, and we're about 1,800 pips from the low. So we're in the bottom half of movement, and so we're not really approaching any majorly significant levels or anything like that. So the Aussie dollar has plenty of room to continue to move down and without getting super crazy overextended. So this is going to be an exciting one. We're going to be on at 7:30 p.m. chat time to watch the Australian news, and I think it's going to be totally wild and totally crazy. So keeping that theme with Australian pairs, again, we have interest rate announcements for Australia, and we've been talking about this Aussie dollar versus New Zealand dollar like crazy, 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 and it is totally interesting what this pair is doing. It is bouncing against all-time lows, super all-time lows. It's just right at those all-time lows, and it's coming way off these highs here. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm not going to try to push anything on this Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar pair. We're just going to see how the news comes out and what happens. I would be very cautious just because, simply in my experience, what I have seen is when you're shorting into all-time lows, we're not talking monthly lows or yearly lows. We're talking lows of the last 20 plus years. Or when you're buying into all-time highs, those are two risky kinds of scenarios to be in. And we don't like risky scenarios. I don't like risk at all, in fact. I'm a day trader that hates risk. And so we're going to want to just watch this news and see how it goes. One thing that the Aussie New Zealand has done interesting is it made this 500 pip move down, retraced up, closed, made a nice move above the 23% fib, and then pulled all the way back down. And it's holding this low. We have a double bottom right at that zero level, and we're only just just a couple of pips off that low, 35 or 40 pips, we still have a decent possibility for this to move back into 104.50 area. And here we are at 103, so we got about 110, 15 pips to get up into that area. But there's a good possibility for that to happen, for this to start running up. I have seen more times than I can count. I've seen fundamentals line up with technicals because those technical levels. And when we're talking Australian dollar versus New Zealand dollar sitting at all-time lows, there's a good chance that we could possibly see some kind of surprise from Australia. So we're going to keep an eye on it. Again, no guesswork out of me. No guesswork. I'm just going to watch it. I'll see what happens, and then we'll take a trade accordingly. And that's it. That's all we can do. Okay, so that's Aussie, New Zealand, so on and so forth. There you go. We're still leaning towards buying dips on this pair, but we could end up with a nice opportunity to sell some rallies as well. If the news comes out bad and this pair shoots up a little bit, if interest rates are cut and they even have more negative news, and for some reason we see a rally on the Aussie New Zealand, we'll take another stab at it. We'll short it again and write it back down to those lows. But we don't want to try to trade the breaks of lows on this pair. Even though New Zealand is holding rates pretty well and Australia is cutting rates, it just I can't in really good conscience start looking for major trades through all-time levels, all-time highs or lows, and in this case lows. So that's the Aussie New Zealand. But we could also get some very nice opportunities with the Aussie yen. So Aussie yen has been an interesting one. It's trended down fairly nicely, and then it's had this little rising wedge that's working its way up here. So this Aussie yen looks like it's trying to break out. It's trying to give us something. And so we're going to watch this. We're just going to see what this pair does. We've got a nice little weekly low that we can keep an eye on that's right down there at 92, basically 9,300. It's not super far away from current market price. This could give us some nice breakouts and some nice moves down through those levels. So Aussie yen could be very, very exciting with the coming news. So basically, I'm looking at this rising wedge, and I'm looking for a possible break and a pour over, a move down into some of these missed pivots. But I'm not super bearish Aussie yen. I'm looking also for this to break higher and actually get out of this channel. So again, it'll just kind of depend on what the RBA says today and how hawkish or dovish they are with the Australian dollar. So pairs like pound Aussie. If I had to take a wild guess on anything, I would be much more bearish Australian dollar versus the pound. The pound is holding pretty strong. It's staying pretty strong. If you're looking at shorting pound Aussie, I've had a few questions about this. I would be so careful with something like that unless the interest rate news comes out very strong for Australia. I would be very bullish pound Aussie, very much not bearish, because it's a pretty easy bet to see, at least at this point before we get the Australian news, that the pound is holding much more steady than the Australian dollar is on the strong side. So just be careful with that. With Canadian pairs that we're looking at, remember we have Canadian interest rate news this week as well. If Canada, which is a huge oil exporter, if Canada continues to face the hurt, which they probably are from oil prices being as low as they are, although in California there's been a massive shutdown at one oil refinery and another one is on strike. So we have oil prices like oil costs $100 a barrel, even though it's 50. But anyway, Canada's probably still feeling a pretty good amount of pinch there, and so we're going to be looking for opportunities to buy dips on dollar CAD. Buy dips. This thing is definitely overextended on the 4-hour chart, like crazy overextended, but it doesn't have to move down that far. 150 pips or so should be far enough to really kind of reset this move. If we can get one more like triple bottom down here at 123.60, 70 area, then we can just buy with so much confidence the dollar CAD off of 123.50 to 124.00. That's such a great buy zone for me. 123.50 to 124.00. I'm going to buy the heck out of that thing down there. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to kind of wait and see what the news says and see how things go. We could get some nice breakouts to the upside here, but it's overextended enough on the 4-hour chart, the dollar CAD is, that I'm pretty nervous to buy it at current market price without more retracement. I need to see more retracement to be able to get in with any amount of confidence. So we're looking to buy dips on dollar CAD, dips down around 12400, around 12400, below 12400 is going to be a great spot to buy dips on dollar CAD. Okay, so that's a lot of pairs. We have a lot more to talk about, but I'm going to kind of leave it at that. I don't want to overwhelm with news and market analysis, but basically what we will want to do most very likely is sell any rallies on euro dollar. To sum it up, we're going to wait on the Aussie, or excuse me, on the pound dollar, but chances are we're going to be looking for opportunities to buy the dip on pound dollar. Buy the dip on pound dollar unless the UK and the Bank of England comes out and says no, everything, rates are never changing, and they might even go down further because of inflation or deflation, whatever. Then we may end up with opportunities to continue selling pound dollar. So we need to wait and see there. Chances are very good that we're going to sell breaks on Aussie dollar, especially with the coming interest rate news. But likewise, we'll probably want to be selling rallies as well on Aussie dollar. So any rallies could be a nice opportunity to sell on Aussie dollar. Dollar CAD, we absolutely want to be buying dips on this pair, buying dips. But we need to see what the central bank, what the Bank of Canada says, and any news they might have that could change our view. But at this point, we're looking for opportunities to buy dips. Aussie New Zealand, we're looking for opportunities to buy dips as well. We'll very cautiously sell rallies. We'll see how the news goes. Aussie Yen, same kind of situation. We could end up with nice opportunities to sell the breaks. Pound Aussie, we're going to kind of steer clear of that one a little bit, and we're going to wait on some of these other ones. But we have some really, really good setups this week. This is kind of a general overview of what I'm looking at. I'll send out more screenshots and tweets and more details about this. But the best thing you can do is get a free trial to the group, and for those that are already members, attend as many live sessions as possible, because we're going to have a lot of really great trading opportunities this week. So it's a heavy week of interest rate stuff, and we finish it off with non-farm payroll on Friday morning, which I'll have a live event for that. Usually I invite everybody to attend non-farm payroll, and so I will do that. We'll have a few live events for members only today or this week with the interest rate news, and we'll kind of take it from there. So one thing I want to mention really quick, and I'll leave it at that. Let me get this recording. Well, actually, I'll talk about it on the recording. Later last week, I talked about the fact that I have got a little bit of a tool that will be a major help in helping to completely eliminate losses in trading, which sounds kind of crazy, but it's actually very true, and it's something that a lot of work has been put into, and I've teamed up with a fantastic programmer that has some very, very excellent ideas and techniques and so on. And so we're going to be talking more about that this week. I'm going to send out emails. I'll probably have a special webinar for that, but I've got a tool that can help eliminate losses in your regular day-to-day trading, and it's very excellent. The how much part is not set yet, but very affordable, because that's kind of my MO. Nothing is going to be too expensive. There's not going to be any hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. For probably $50, $60, $70, $80, right around that range. We need to decide still. You will be able to get access to this tool that will help eliminate losses completely in your trading, which I think is pretty fantastic. So, one-time fee, just a one-time fee. So it's very exciting. It's something I've been looking at and working on for a while, and it's just super, super cool, and I'm super excited to share that with everybody. So more details will be coming on that, but just know it's a very affordable tool to help eliminate losses, a one-time fee. It'll be accessible to many and all, and it's really, really awesome. So I'll have those details, more of those details as we go. But that's a little word on that. So more details coming there. And then we've got such an exciting week, and it starts off in about 3 hours with the Australian interest rate announcements, which I'll be live in here for. We'll talk about all that. We'll take it from there. Thanks a bunch for attending, guys. I'm going to get this video posted, and I will take any questions that anybody has or any comments you guys want to make. I'm totally all ears.